Hello, Firestarters, and welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to share this new friend with you, Jennifer Shook. She is an inner healing mentor, Christian life coach, and speaker who helps women navigate the deep pain of addiction, betrayal, and family crisis. She walks alongside those who feel isolated in their struggles, women who love God but feel unseen, shamed, or unable to be real in their church communities. Through inner healing prayer, mentorship, and authentic conversations, she creates a safe space where women can process their grief, release control, and rediscover their true identity in Christ. Her mission is to break the silence around struggles the church often avoids, and oh, don't we? While guiding women to break free from religious expectations, striving, and performance. Hello, I feel seen right now. Leading them towards true healing, freedom, and restoration. So, Jennifer, welcome to Firestarters.
Thank you so much, Hilary. I'm just so excited to be here with you today.
Well, we're going to jump into it as I always do with my favorite question. I love to go back to the beginning of a person's journey because doing this type of work is not easy. It's definitely a calling, I would say. Fight me on it, right? It's a calling.
Yeah.
So I would take us to the beginning of when you were called into this. How did this start for you? Does it go back to childhood? Is it later in life? What was it like when you heard that calling and you decided to take that first step out of the boat?
Yeah. I truly do believe it started in childhood. I had I loved helping others. It was something that just came naturally to me. But then life moves along and things change. And I was a single mom at a very young age. And so I ended up going into education. I became a teacher. I was a teacher for years, then got out of that, started doing more entrepreneurial type stuff, and which was always something in me. I just loved that life. Yeah, I loved working for myself. I loved just the freedom in that. I'm all about freedom in any area of life, right?
Amen.
So, but then what led me to really, it was really the beginning of my own identity crisis and just beginning to dive into that with Jesus and learning more about who I am in Christ. And I had grown up in the church my whole life. Like I'm a really good church girl, like I knew how to follow the rules really well. But, after in my 20s, when I start really diving into identity and who am I really and who is God, I just started to get a passion for then sharing what God was teaching me. It's like, okay, I've learned this now and I've got it, so I want to share it, right? And so that I would lead Bible studies at church, I would do some mentoring and things like that. But then when it really hit was in 2018, my husband, he relapsed after 17 years of sobriety. And we started walking through a really, really hard season. And so probably halfway into that journey, a couple years into that, I knew I wanted to do life coaching. I wanted to help others. I had gone back and forth between counseling and life coaching, but I really love asking questions. And I've been told throughout my life that I'm a good question asker. And so that's what coaches do. They ask questions, right? So I got a certification for that, but yet I was still in the middle of a lot of chaos. And so it kind of got put on the shelf for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 2019. And so in 2023, just 2 years ago, was when I just finally decided to jump in with a friend of mine. I'm like, hey, you're going to be my first client. We're going to just practice this together. Let me impart to you what God has been pouring into me and helping me learn. And so she did. And so that's how it started was with her. And then it's just grown from that. And I love being able to share with other women freedom that Christ has given me and what he's taught me over these last 7 years.
That is so beautiful. I love that. And this is a thread. I interview so many women, and I find these common threads that the Lord pulls through. One of the biggest is that he uses the trials in our lives to serve others. And so what we think disqualifies us really actually is part of the calling that he brings us into. And that sounds like exactly what he's done with you. I also love that you started in education. I did as well. I taught for
Yes.
21 years. And it was like, it was the strangest thing. I went to school pre-vet actually and started going to my classes and realized very quickly that this was an idealistic, like I loved animals, but I could not see blood or animal. Like, what was I? I wasn't even, hello, wake up. Do you even know yourself? No. And
Yeah.
I simply asked my roommate, I'm like, what are you getting your degree in? She's like, I'm going to be a teacher. I was like, I'll just do that. I mean, I was like talk about waves of the ocean being tossed. That was me. And God there's just so much grace in what he does because I was not navigating my life at all with any intentionality, certainly not with him. I was not a believer at the time, but he just covered me in that. But I ended up teaching for 21 years. And my
Mm.
friend, she taught for two.
Yeah.
It's so ironic. But just like you and this is another thing that I see with a lot of women who are called into this space, there's this entrepreneurial spirit, this autonomy that we
Mhm.
really, really thirst after. But it's not just to serve our own purpose or to live life, to the beat of our own drum. I think it's this hunger for autonomy so that we can break free from any other chains the world or man would put on us and really just hear and serve the Lord and
Right.
have the freedom to do that. And it sounds like you stepped into that space and then your experience with your husband
Yeah.
really, but would you say that that experience pushed you further into this or catapulted you a little bit faster on your journey?
I yes, and it was also something that tried to hold me back. So it's both. Because when you're living in this cycle of addiction, one of the things that happens is that because you don't know what's coming, and I lived in this survival mode of, okay, I'm waking up today. What's going to happen today? What am I going to be dealing with today? What will I have the emotional capacity for today? And before 2018, I was a very high capacity person. Like, I am goal oriented. I can get things done. It's just, let's do it type person. And then living in addiction with my husband, I wasn't that way. And I was struggling to figure out why I couldn't just get normal things done, you know? And so I had a desire, I wanted to, and I had so many people in my life and my community that were speaking into me and saying that you are called to this. I know God has a purpose for you. And I even would tell myself that, like, God, I did not go through everything that I've been through to just keep it to myself. I know I'm going to share it. I know I'm going to help other people. So that was in me. And I wanted that so bad. But then there was also this part of me that was afraid, like, okay, well, what if something happens? What if I can't what if I have a client that day and and I can't handle it because I'm going through something with my husband? Like, am I going to be able to do this, God? Right? Like, that really held me back for that's why it took me from 2019 to 2023 before I really jumped in and started. And it was just so cool because I had was talking to I have a coach myself, and had done a lot of inner healing work with her this whole time. And we had a session about me taking steps forward in coaching, and we were talking about how it just takes just take one step, one person, just do one thing. And that same day, my friend who became my very first client, she's like 15 years younger than me. So we were like, she kind of looked at me like as like a mentor anyway. She called me the same day, and she knew that I had done the life coaching certificate. She knew we would talk and she would ask me questions. And so we already had that kind of relationship. But she called me that same day and said, "When are you starting life coaching? I'm ready. Let's do it." So I'm like, okay, God, you can't make it any more clear than that. Like, we're just gonna, life was not perfect at all. When I started, my husband, actually, he was sober, but he had gone back to jail for a little bit and was not even home yet from jail. So there was a lot of things going on in my life, but I just, I knew that it was time to take this step, and I didn't have to have it all figured out.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't have the whole picture, and that's what we want, right? We want the whole picture of what this is going to look like.
Yes, we do.
Um, but I've learned one step at a time, just one step at a time. So that's how it started. And I'm continuing to take one step each day, you know?
Well, and I love this. Coaches always have coaches. I have a coach, and we all need somebody. And I love the one step. I started the same way. My coach was like, you just need to get started. You need to figure out your process. And I want you to call 3 people today and offer this to them. Just say, and do it for free. Just do it for free, figure it out. And sure enough, the referrals didn't come in from that, but it was a scary step. Did you feel scared, even though you knew her and she was asking? Was there fear?
Absolutely. I was, because I mean, there was so much like, okay, God, really? Can I really do this? Do I really have something to offer this person who already, I know she trusts me. She's actually coming to me and asking me, but there was a lot of self-doubt. There was a lot of fear. The enemy comes in and tries to tell us that we're not, what do I have to offer? I would hear that a lot. What do I have to offer anybody else? When God is actually saying, you have a lot to offer. You come as a real, authentic, vulnerable person. That's one of your gifts. And so, yeah, you need to take that step. So, but yes, it was scary, even though I knew her so well.
And you didn't feel necessarily qualified. That period, was it from 2018 to 2021, you said, or 2023?
2023. Yeah.
Okay, I want from that year, that period of time,
Hmm.
share with us where you were, like, mentally, physically, because I imagine you and your husband are going through things. You feel this calling, you haven't stepped into it. Did you feel like you were in a desert? Was it quiet? Did God seem quiet? Did it just seem chaotic? Were
Hmm.
you holding yourself back at all, or did you hear the Lord saying this is a preparation season? Anything. I would love to know, because I went through a long time period of what I felt like was, I'd been called. I know I needed to step out, but I didn't have clarity on what it looked like. And I
Hmm.
wasn't really hearing anything directly from God in regard to that question, like concrete. What does this look like? But if I look back, and I feel like he was very much preparing me and growing my confidence, but he wasn't asking me to move yet. And
Yeah.
we all have different seasons, and God is working with us in different ways. So I'm just curious what that season was like for you. What were the elements?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. God is so good, because right before my husband relapsed, a really good friend of mine, my best friend who has walked through this whole journey with me, she invited me to this 1-day retreat. And I've been to retreats before, but I went with her to this 1-day retreat, and it was a lot of different women from a lot of different churches. It wasn't just one church. And that day was it was ordained by God. I know it was a divine appointment, because Lene, who was the one that ran that retreat, she's the one that became my coach. She is the one that I still coach with her to this day, 7 years later. Um, and after that retreat that day, 2 weeks later, I had my first session with her, and she does inner healing work, inviting Jesus into old wounds, memories, things that I didn't even realize the stuff that was coming out that day. I had no clue where some of my woundedness started. And so when I met with her that first day and I walked through that experience, and God showed me that I believed a lie about him. And I believed he was my punisher. I thought that he was my punisher, even though I had done a lot of work on myself already. I knew the difference between lies and truth, Bible studies on this stuff, right? But like, deep down in this wounded place, there was still this belief that I thought he was going to punish me. And so I got a lot of healing that day in that session, where that lie was gone and Jesus just really set me free from that. And then 3 weeks after that was when my husband relapsed. And so I know that that was a divine appointment, because if I would have walked through that believing that God was my punisher, I
Mhm.
don't even know if I would be sitting with you here today. Really. I really don't. And so because that started there, and I kept meeting with her monthly, and I kept going to her retreats, and I was surrounded by just different women who were all hungry for the Lord. And I was learning, like, taking God out of the box. I was I didn't realize at the time, I don't think I was actually thinking, okay, I'm in a process for something coming, because it was still very chaotic in my life. There was chaos all the time, and the chaos got worse and worse and worse. That's how addiction works, and like, some days my husband wouldn't come home. I didn't know where he was. I had to go to bed at night praying that God would protect him, waking up the next morning wondering what was happening. And so when I was living in that chaos, it was hard to think ahead of, I'm going to help somebody someday with this. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking, how am I going to survive? I'm so thankful for the people that God brought into my life during that time. But as I started to walk through it, it took 3 years, actually, 3 years into this addiction in 2021, where I finally, I let go of trying to rescue him. And because I was so afraid. I was so afraid. And so when you're afraid, you want to control the situation, you want to try to fix it and all of those. And that's what I had been doing for 3 years. Even though I was getting healing, I was working on myself, I was still like, I was unraveling. That's how I look at it. Like, God was unraveling a bunch of things in my own life, and as well as my husband's life. And so in 2021, when I'm starting to realize, okay, there's nothing I can do to fix my husband, I have to let go, I have to surrender, I have to focus on my own healing. That's when things started to shift. That's when I really started to even like dive in more to my own junk, like recognizing, okay, I've got some control issues here. What's going on? Like, where did that come from? Where did that start? And so as I was changing, and as I was learning more about myself, and continuing to show up with my coach, and with these other women at retreats throughout the year, and I just kind of I just dove into that community. It was a beautiful community of women, and it was in that place where I really started to see that, okay, God's going to use this, because I had so much life coming into me from my community of women. They were pulling out the gold in me. They were saying things about me that were true, like how God sees me, how, like, there were so many words that were spoken over me that I didn't feel it in the moment. I didn't feel those things, but like, when you're constantly being told those things, and like, you know what, this is what God sees. This is what God says. He's going to use this for your good. There's going to be a good harvest that comes from this. It, as I started to just continue to walk in that, then I started to get the picture. Okay, there is coming a day, God. I know it. I know there's going to be a time when I'm going to be pouring into women, but it definitely didn't start that way. It was a process of just God dealing with me first and healing me even at a deeper level. And I remember telling God, like, okay, I have worked so much on myself. What, really? Like, I still got to keep doing this. Like, there's all this stuff. And it's layers, right? God
Yeah.
just, he pulls back the layers, and he's so kind in the way he does it. He knows when we're ready to receive it, and to work on things, and he's not going to push us, and he knew that I was ready. He knew I was ready. And so it's such a process. I guess that's my, that's my main point there. It's such a process, right?
Right. Well, but there's a truth behind that, I think, because whatever he calls us to, he's going to sanctify us through it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He, I mean, I personally believe there's this fullest version of us, right? The version that God intends us to be when he created us. And I'm in constant pursuit of the fullness of who he created me to be. And what he calls me to, what those desires he puts in my heart, as I pursue them, as I lean on him, because it's always scary, it seems, to pursue
Mm-hmm.
them. They're not the norm. They're not comfortable. They're in that growth zone. But as I pursue them, the pursuing of them is what helps me continue to bloom. And
Yeah.
I love, you had a coach, and you had
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
We're never sent to into these places alone. He
Mm-mm.
always provides, and that's the body of Christ. That's the church being the church, right? Pouring into us as we pursue these hard journeys. All of those elements are so important. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about your bio, like everything that you do and how you help people. And it's so fitting that you don't just have skills and knowledge. There's an empathy and an understanding that you bring when you're coaching your clients. So I know you work on really going from striving to surrender, which is
Yes.
huge, very difficult for women, even
Yes.
outside of addiction, just on a daily basis, just to sort of,
Yes.
even as moms,
Yes.
our children are like our heart walking outside of us, and we're like, oh, don't go there. So tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about, because I'm going to read some of the things that you work through: religious performance, working
Mm-hmm.
through that. Um, I love this. You talk about crisis often exposes the limitations of performance based faith. That,
Mm-hmm.
when I read that, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that is true. Um,
Yeah.
so share a little bit with what you work on with your clients, what tends to be those bigger things or the things that you work on most often. Um,
Yeah.
tell us how you serve.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I work with Christian women, and so there's so many common themes, just like you said, even though no, everybody's story is different, everyone's going through different things, but there is a common theme among Christian women, and it's the feeling of, I'm just not doing enough. I can't even tell you how many times I hear, I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better wife. I want to be closer to God. I want to be connected to God. I want to do better. Those are the common statements. And I used to say those things too all the time. Like, that's just what we say as good Christian women, right? We want to be better.
Yeah.
And what God started to show me when I immediately went into rescue mode with my husband, and I'm only focused on him and I'm doing everything for him. And why am I not even like, I didn't even, I mean, yes, I was doing my coaching, but like I wasn't even truly that concerned about what I was going to do for myself and what I needed. In fact, if somebody asked me the question, what do you need? I, I didn't know how to answer that. Like, I needed for my husband to be sober. That was my answer. Like, that's what I need, you know? And so as God was walking with me through that journey, it's like I had this aha moment eventually, a few years into this, where he showed me that the reason why I and many women we love the performance part of it. We love the checking things off a list. We love the knowing what to do, the rules that can come out in the church culture of, okay, this is how it's done in church. I knew how to do that so well. And so that was a control thing. Like, I had no clue when God showed me that. He's like, well, of course you love that because you know what to expect. You can control that.
Mm,
You can maneuver all of that. If you step outside of performance and you step into all the gray areas, because performance is so black and white. You either do it or you don't. You're
right.
either going to check it off the list or you're not. But stepping outside of that and coming into freedom, oh my gosh, that's scary. What? Like, I have options. I can ask questions. I can do things different. Like, my situation is not going to necessarily follow steps 1, 2, and 3. Do this, this, and this to get out of it. No, that wasn't working, you know? And so to step out of performance and to come into, all right, Jesus, I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to walk through this. And the only thing that I'm required to do is to stay connected to you. Like, he would tell me that over and over and over. And I would see this picture of me and Jesus just holding hands and walking together. And the reason I have this picture behind me of this path is because I would always see me and Jesus walking in this beautiful path, lots of trees, lots of colors, lots of things. And so, and I was always holding his hand. We would sit down and talk together. There's so many different images and pictures that he showed me along the way of it. There's not a perfect answer. And I wanted the perfect answer. Women want to be told what to do. Tell me what to do.
Yes, yes. I don't know how many conversations I've had with Jesus where I'm like, I'm willing, just tell me and I'll go do it. I had a friend of mine said, oh, what did she say to me? How did it start? She said, Hilary, quit focusing on the next thing you need to do and
Yes.
ask God what you need to know. I was,
Yes.
well, what am I going to do with that? And I should already know. That's another thing. I should already know. I shouldn't have to ask God. I should already know.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. Whenever I start hearing women say, I should, I should, I should, I should, I should. I used to say those things all the time. And when I hear women saying that, I'm like, okay, when we're saying I should, we know there's performance connected to that, which means you're going to be feeling guilty about something. You're going to be trying really hard to make something happen. And that's not the heart of Jesus for us. And just like you, that I love that your friend asked you that question. One of the questions that I learned to ask was, well, there's a couple, but one of them was, what is on Jesus's heart for me? What is his heart for my situation? Like how is he feeling for me in this situation? And another big one that I was taught to ask was, instead of what should I do, what do I need to believe?
Oh,
What do I need to believe about my situation, about me, about my husband, about God, about all of it? Because it always starts with a belief. And so those were such huge parts of the journey. But the I shoulds, the guilt, you're exhausted. What else should I do? Instead of all of that, just sit with Jesus. Like whether it's going on a walk or whether it's just sitting there on your couch with a cup of coffee or whatever it is for you, it's not going to look the same. We're all different. We're all unique.
mm-hmm.
However you feel close to God, get there in that space and just be there with him and just sit there with him. You don't have to open your devotional even. Like,
Right?
don't have to. Like, yeah.
I want you to speak to that because I have women, even at church, we talk about quiet time a lot. And I'll hear, well, I don't have time, or, I don't have the flare pens, or I don't have my chair. And I'm like, so when you have these conversations with God, because obviously he has been guiding you through this journey, did it
Yeah.
always look the same? Did you have a set quiet time? How did you navigate those conversations? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, no, like that was another huge breakthrough for me early on in this journey. I was going through a Bible study with my coach and with some other women from that community. And in one of the chapters, she had actually written this Bible study, and she said it was about quiet time. And it was asking questions about that. And it was, what happens whenever you don't have quiet time first thing in the morning? Then how do we feel the rest of the day? We feel guilty. Oh my gosh, I should have spent time. I can't believe it's just this pattern. Why can't I do it? I know better, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just feel so much shame, right? And that's like, it's defeating the whole purpose of spending time with God. And so in her Bible study, she said, why don't we take God out of the box? And is it okay if I like to spend time with Jesus at 3:00 in the afternoon? Can that be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we just say that that's okay? Right? Or whatever time it is, or if it's you driving to work and you're talking to God, why does it have to be that I have to sit in my chair with my coffee and my book and my Bible and my journal, and that's the only way it can look? Why?
Yes.
So and of course, I'm like religious girl, right? Growing up in the church. And I'm like, all these things are going through my head. Well, yeah, but I'm supposed to start my day with Jesus. And yeah, I mean, but then I started thinking, how crazy does it sound if the only time I talk to my husband's name's Scotty, If it looked the same every single day, like I'm only going to talk to you, Scotty, at 8 o'clock every morning, every day. That's it. And that's the only time that's allowed for me to talk to you. That sounds ridiculous, right? But yet, why do we look at God and say, I have to do that. I have to do it this way because this is what I've been taught in the church. And of course we should spend time with God. It's a relationship, but it's going to look different for you and me because he created us different. You're wired different than me. Everybody's wired different. So God is going to show up for each of us in different ways. He's going to speak differently. And so as I started to learn that and like let myself take God out of the box, guess what happens? You don't feel all the pressure. You don't feel
Mm-hmm.
all the shame and the guilt and the, oh my gosh, okay, another day went by. I messed it up again. I failed God. I didn't show up for him this morning. That is not his heart for us. Right. And so, I have so many wonderful moments of God. Just like I remember a day where I just went out to a lake here close by where I live down here in South Texas and took my journal, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and I'm just sitting there with God, and I wrote some in my journal. Yes. But like, I didn't even open my Bible. I don't think, like, I was just there, but I could feel his presence and I knew he was with me. And isn't that the point? Isn't it about getting in the presence of God, not just reading a scripture or just reading a devotional? Like, why does it have to be that way? Right?
Yeah, that is so good. And setting women free from that. I do think there's so much to be said for the space that you work in regards to performance, checking off boxes, getting our self-worth from performing. This all speaks to me. I know it speaks to most women.
Yeah.
If not
Yeah.
all. I really do.
Yes. Yes.
And it's insane the box that we put him in and that we put ourselves in, that it's got to look a certain way, it's got to be done a certain way, and we never question why. And we just take on that guilt and shame and just say, this is life and this is how we have to live, which is why the work that you do is so important, because it's a lie. It's not true.
Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
sad is it that we go that we have friends, women that we do life with, who are waking up and not starting their day with God and then shaming themselves all day, and they carry the weight of that on them. And then it's hard to show up as your full self for others when you have this darkness surrounding you.
Yes.
It is so important to be set free from that. And you know what? We can't do it on our own.
Mm-mm.
We can't. If we could, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Jesus would be here, I think, honestly.
Yeah. I know. We all need someone that's going to walk this journey with, even if it's just one person,
Mhm.
and it needs to be somebody other than just our husband. It can't be your husband. It
No,
needs to be a woman that's just, walking side by side with you. And you both want just more of Jesus. Like you're on the journey together, right? And it's like this mutual exchange of life
mhm.
that each of you can pour into each other. I mean, I've experienced it in so many ways. I've experienced it that way. I've experienced it in the bigger community with women in those retreats that I went to. I've experienced it one-on-one with a coach. There was a certain time of my journey where I met with two certain friends that were in a very similar situation with me. And we met weekly for a year. And we talked a lot about boundaries because that's what I needed in that moment.
Mhm.
And so God just provided people all throughout the journey. And I know I wouldn't be okay if I had to do that alone. I know I wouldn't. I would not be where I am today if I was trying to do that on my own. None of us can do that.
No.
Nobody was created to live as an island and to isolate.
Did I have to ask this because I have this tendency when life gets when I feel overwhelmed, I want to shrink. I want to shrink my world. I want to simplify it. I want to kind of just stay home. I'm going to cut off communication. And in my mind, I'm justifying it, going, the less interactions I have, the less I'm dealing, and I can handle it. But what I found was it created a coffin. Like I was shrinking my walls, and what became a room became a box and then a coffin. And and my anxiety grew. Did you ever have any experience like that or have to fight against that, especially when your husband relapsed?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I can relate to you so much on that. Like that is me, what you just described. And even today, like my husband is sober. He's been sober a year and a half, but he's got a lot of woundedness, and he's just now starting his healing journey with a counselor and with inner healing and things like that. So that can look messy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's triggers that can happen. There's things that can come up in me, and my immediate go-to, whether it was back then or now, is shut down,
Mm-hmm.
cancel everything on the calendar. I can't do anything. Like I am going to stay at home. I'm going to turn on my show and I am going to escape. Like I can't do this, God. God, why would you expect me to show? I can't. Like there's just so many thoughts that come to my mind. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine who's coaching me right now, in more of a business way. We were talking about this, and God clearly told me that his timing is perfect. Like me showing up on this podcast today is perfect timing, even though circumstances in my life are not perfect. They can still be messy at times, but what a better way to show up, be real. Like that's what God told me. Like I'm showing up real, raw, authentic. My life's not perfect. I don't have it all figured out. And that's what people want. Women, people in general, are so tired of the surface level answers.
Yeah.
In the church, like I was tired. Like I needed something more. I could not have somebody look at me and tell me when I'm in the depths of despair with addiction and betrayal and with my husband, and someone telling me to read a scripture, or someone telling me that God uses everything for good in my life, or someone giving me some churchy answer in those moments was the last thing I needed. No. Like, yes, scripture is powerful, and yes, I need that. And yes, I know that God's going to turn it all for my good. But in those moments, that's not what I needed to hear. I needed somebody to just sit with me and cry with me and pour hope into me when I had no hope, and who would believe for me when I had no belief left in me. Like that real, raw stuff, that's what people need, and that's what people crave. And so that's why has been speaking this to me even now. Like, no, you show up. You show up exactly in what you're at, because people don't want fake.
No.
They can connect or relate to somebody who has it all together. They can relate to somebody who's still going through it, and like, maybe, yes, I'm definitely not where I was 7 years ago. I've come a long way, and I've learned a lot, but life still isn't perfect for any of us. And we just need to take that word off the table, right? Perfect is not reality.
No. Yeah. The only one who's perfect is Jesus. I use the word calibrate a lot because even balance requires perfection, right? You have this fulcrum and it's just got to be perfect to balance, and it never will be, but we can calibrate. The thing is, and I kind of heard this in what you were sharing. This is why your work is so important, Jennifer, that you do with others. I think as women, we have a culture where when we focus on performance and showing up perfect, then when life hits us, we have no practice being vulnerable or real because we have pursued that perfection. Not only that, but if life hits for a friend, it's very hard to understand how to go to them and interact with them outside of that performance. He'll restore the years the Lord took.
Yes.
You don't know how to talk because you've been checking boxes and being perfect instead of just being raw and real. So I believe every woman, even if like my friends who are still teaching first grade, they're not, you don't have to be an entrepreneur or pursuing some like scary, audacious thing. to need
Right.
a coach in your life, to need a mentor in your life, especially to have a life coach. We all
Mhm.
need that because, and even if life isn't difficult right now, because
Mhm.
you need coaching on how to show up raw and real so that you
Yeah.
can be raw and real with others for their life and for yours. This is something that we don't do well, I don't think.
Right.
We
Yeah.
really don't. And it's a disservice to our own lives and to the lives of our friends because we struggle on how to, hey,
Yes.
we don't know how
Yeah,
to.
how to show yeah, like, how do we show up for people in our lives when we are just giving these churchy answers, Like, that doesn't work. It
No,
doesn't work.
no. And if none of us are willing to go deep in our own lives, I mean, we don't, my husband's an alcoholic. He's about to have 21 years sober. So,
Oh, congratulations.
but I tell you this journey that our husbands have experienced, that is hard. We don't even have
Mhm.
to like justify how hard it is or talk about that. It goes without saying. But
Yeah.
there is a blessing in it, in that my husband doesn't have an option of not living vulnerable.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he has to stay in that real space
Mhm.
and remember what is there and what is possible. And can I just tell you that because of that, the way he shows up with others is so beautiful. He's
Yeah.
not trying to sound a certain way I mean, it's just so authentic. And the way that he serves others because of that is so beautiful. And it has taught me what it can be like to be that for somebody else. I see that in you. I see that you have that quality. And I would imagine as a life coach, the way that you're working with this women provides that for them and really models for them. You can be real and vulnerable and authentic. And it's very safe and it's very good. And it does a deep, deep work in ourselves when we do it and for the person that we're serving.
Yes.
Sometimes I think it's important for women to hear that pursuing that perfection will not serve your life as deep and as well, or even the lives of those you're in proximity to, as deep as or as well as if you choose that surrender, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
imperfect, real and raw path.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful for the work that you're doing. I'm so thankful you left the classroom.
Yeah. Me too.
That's scary, although staying in the classroom is equally as scary right now. And for all of our friends who are still teaching, we see you, we love you. Keep fighting the good
Yes.
fight. And you probably need a life coach and you need to get in contact with Jennifer.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
So I want you to answer this question if you're willing. If you could, even speak to your former self who is teaching, or just that woman right now who is playing it safe, who feels very scared to let go of checking the boxes and pursuing performance and perfection, even though she knows, like, I'm literally killing myself doing this and I want out, but how do I even step out of this? What does that even look like? What would you say to her?
I would say take the step now. Don't wait. Don't let fear hold you back like I did back then. I was so afraid of not controlling my situation and not having everything in order. I love order. I love structure. I love to know what's coming. I love to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so fear held me back from so much, even from I wish I would have started getting counseling and coaching in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so thankful that my daughter she's 29 and she has gotten help for herself at a younger age. Thank you, Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
that that's happening, And so I would tell that woman, get help. It's okay. Take this step. I didn't want to cry in front of people. I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to look like I didn't have it together. I'm the strong one. No, like, let yourself go there. Let yourself feel all the feelings. Do it afraid. It's okay to be afraid, but still take the step. And we know it, right? Like there was something in me, even in my younger self, that knew I needed help. I knew it. I knew I needed to do something, but I just was too scared and I didn't. And looking back, I wish I would have taken those steps for myself back then. And so, yeah, I would just encourage any woman right now to whatever, you feel the stirring inside of you, God's talking to you. You already probably even know he's told you a step to take,
Yes.
and you keep putting it off and off and off because you're so scared. And it's not going to go away until you just do it, right? Like, just take the step and let somebody know that you trust, that can pray with you and can walk with you and encourage you and hold you accountable and just be with you in the journey. That's so important too. So, yeah, just take the step.
Yeah, and probably the first, well, who knows what the first step is? It's different for everybody, but I know one of the first steps is probably to get a coach, to get that someone who's in your corner and can guide you with that outside perspective. It's so important. So Jennifer, how do they connect with you? And I'll put all of this in the show notes. Where can they find you?
They can find me at jennifershook.com. That is my website. There's a contact form on there that you can fill out if you just want to send me a message, or there's also an option to just do a free 30-minute coaching call with me to talk with me. I would love for people to follow me on socials. That's always a fun way to connect and just interact that way. And then I do have a free resource for people. It's a journal I created called Brokenness to Breakthrough. And it's just walking through some of the steps that I took with Jesus over these last 7 years, and just kind of put that on paper. It's a digital resource. And so there's anyone listening can have access to that as well, to just help them take a step, and it has some questions in there and some journal space and things like that. So, yeah.
That is so good. And journaling is so powerful. And we get in our heads about that too. Like, I don't have 45 minutes to journal. Girl, take 2 minutes, 2 minutes
Exactly.
while your coffee's brewing. I don't know, but you can do it. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for your obedience to God, to follow this calling and to do the work and to not be scared and not shrink back, because it's very tempting to do that. And you're needed. This work is needed. Your story's needed. Everything that you've experienced, I see you using for the goodness of others and for God's glory. And I'm so grateful for that. So
thank you so much, Hilary.
Yeah. And y'all need to go check out Jennifer. I'm going to put all of her information in the show notes. So scroll down, click on that, go follow her on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media places, and go check out her website and get that free resource. Download that free resource. That sounds powerful.
Thank you so much.
Okay.